WVTC Radio Detroit. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, our website, www.wvtcradio.com, or download our WVTC app from the Play Store for Android users and the App Store for iPhone users. Thank you for tuning to WVTC Radio Detroit and the Community Bell Show with your host, former Wayne County Commissioner, Edna Bell. Stay tuned for insightful information Detroiters will find valuable. Text a friend and tell them to watch with you for news you can use. And now, your host, Edna Bell.
Here we go again in circles. I think I heard it all. We've been here before, but we need something more. Something more. Something more. What you said, I can't hear 'cause you ain't talking about nothing. 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 What you talking about? Baby, talking about the same old thing. I'ma have to call a foul in the game. What you talking about? A little money, now you all OG. Talking about it's all eyes on me. Ain't talking about nothing. Let me guess you count money to the ceiling. Difference between us like at least a couple million. It's foreign cars, pretty girls everywhere you go. Yeah, I heard it 30 times on the radio. Louboutin ain't gon' pay you for that bragging. And Donatella probably never heard your album. Yeah, they probably about to label me a hater, but I know these people greater than the songs they created. It's little homies in the hood regurgitate. And everybody watching thinking that you made it. The truth is, for a few designer labels and a little bit of paper, like you 12 years slave. Hey, but you ain't Lil Peter, so why you beat up and pushing people to lean on a double cup and a seizure? It sound like you put your feet up. Still a slave and money can't buy your freedom, partner. Here we go again in circles. I think I heard it all. We've been here before, but we need something more. Something more. Something more. What you said, I can't hear 'cause you ain't talking about nothing. 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 What you talking about? Baby, talking about the same old thing. I'ma have to call a foul in the game. What you talking about? A little money, now you all OG. Talking about it's all eyes on me. And tell me why the song's on in my car. Why the song on in my gym. What they saying? Man, the song stuck in my head. I can't say no more. I still don't know what y'all saying. Let me do this. I'ma be a straight shooter. Hey, we was made in his image while we so Judas. Talking bread like we at the Last Supper. Throwing money at these women, make it rain in the summer. I ain't advertising brands on the radio. They expensive and I know they ain't gon' pay me for it. Telling kids to go in debt for the vet that they probably never get. But I talk about it every song. And every song talking about they selling work on every corner. Don't talk about the laws taking kids away from mamas. Don't talk about your homie in the trauma 'cause he shot him. Or what about your young boy messing up the product? They don't talk about the bond money that they ain't had. And everybody snitch on everybody in the jam. They don't talk about the pain, they don't talk about the struggle. How they turned to the Lord when they ran into trouble. I'ma talk about it. I don't care if the world try to swallow me. I turn my back to them, tell them all follow me. I know you gon' label me a hater, but inside you are greater than the songs you create, mate. Here we go again in circles. I think I heard it all. We've been here before, but we need something more. Something more. Something more. What you said, I can't hear 'cause you ain't talking about nothing. 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 What you talking about? Baby, talking about the same old thing. I'ma have to call a foul in the game. What you talking about? A little money, now you all OG. Talking about it's all eyes on me. Ain't talking about nothing.
money we can get from selling poison to people. It's time to talk about who we are and who we can be, man. We need to build each other up, not pull each other down. I feel like we're not talking about nothing right now.
Well, good afternoon, good afternoon, everybody. As you can see, I've been running. The hair's not right, but that's okay. I am here with my wonderful guest for today. Happy New Year!
Yes.
This is the first Monday of 2020 and the first Monday of a new decade. How about that? Who would have thought we'd be saying 2020? My. I remember when we thought 1984 was something special. And George Orwell and all of his things. And now here we are talking about 2020. Well, good afternoon. We're glad to have you with us on this first show for the new year. It's a beautiful sunny day, and we are just so happy to be here. Thank you so much for joining us. And we have a wonderful, wonderful guest today. We got a young lady with us today. She just does all sorts of great things. I can tell you because I worked with her for several months when we were planning the Black Women in Michigan Politics Conference, and it was such a wonderful, wonderful luncheon. Diajah did a wonderful job of keeping us ladies who are over 50 on track and helping us with technology and helping us figure out how to do things and doing them faster than we could even think them. And it was wonderful. Thank you for that. And thank you for being with us today.
Yes.
You may have known her from her work with Senator Sylvia Santana in State House, no, State Senate, rather.
Yes.
Now she has a new job.
Yes.
And Diajah's going to tell us about that new job. Tell us about your new job, Diajah.
Okay, well, right now I'm working for a progressive organization. We basically just get young people more involved in the political process, which is awesome. So I'm in Washtenaw County. I'm a community organizer, and I work on Eastern's campus, U of M's campus, and Washtenaw Community College campus.
Wonderful, wonderful. And when you say you work on those campuses, what do you do on those campuses?
Well, we get them young people registered to vote, let them know what all is entailing as far as the absentee ballots that are going on right now, and also anything like doing events with them or just making sure that they are aware of that their voice matters, and also showing them the implications of how they can get involved. So with the voter registration or learning about the census and things like that.
That is wonderful. You know, we talk so often about our young people and them not wanting to be involved and not voting and not being registered, not expressing their voice. And one of the things they say is that my vote doesn't count. Mm-hmm. What do you hear when you're talking to them?
Oh, yes. It's still there. It's still there. It's definitely a challenge. It has been a hard task to get people involved, especially volunteer-based, and also like just wanting them to be registered voters. A lot of people, I believe, are thinking about, I can tell that they're having a second thought in their mind about what will my parents say about this, or is this the right thing to do? Can I trust you with this type of information? Does my vote really count? I've been letting people know about more local elections, more than presidential, just to show them that what that process looks like, because they always say, well, my vote really doesn't matter because of the Electoral College. If it's anything, one thing about college kids, they know government when it comes to that stuff. So.
Well, that's good. So how have you been able to convince them that their vote does count and that they should get involved?
Because I know people that are elected, and I know that the process is important, and getting the right people elected is important.
Okay.
I know some phenomenal elected officials, and the things that they are doing to continue to move Michigan forward is so important for the young people that are coming up, and if they can just see that the way that I see it, I think it'll be good for them. So just letting them know, like, I see these people every day. These are tangible people. You can talk to these people, and you can get what you want to be pushed forward within those conversations.
What are some of the things they say they want?
Young people don't want student loans. That's number one. If it's anything in college that young people talk about, it's the student loans. And I will agree.
I do remember that, but when I was going to college, we didn't even have them. So, but my daughters did. They didn't want them either. But so, what's their alternative to student loans? I mean, how do they do they plan to get the education paid for without student loans?
Scholarships, they're out there. I was fortunate enough to run track and field in college, so I got a scholarship that way. So sports, just small scholarships that you can find online, community scholarships. I know several leaders that are doing community-based scholarships. And family, you have to reach out. Like, parents have to be purposeful within what they're doing with their children when it comes to making sure that their child is not in a lot of debt. I know that that's putting a lot on the parents, but if you plan ahead, you won't set your child up to be in such a heavy burden, because the world is in a place where money. You have to have money.
You have to have it. But let's say the young people, and there really are a lot of them, who qualify for college, have done well in school, but just don't have families who are capable of getting them ready, or having that money set aside, or being able to loan them money or give them money for college. What do those young people do?
We got to protest. We have to fight for what we know we deserve. Everyone deserves an education. I think that the simple way is just to have the money. But the way that I think is most important is to continue to push back on our presidents, our senators, congressional folks, to making sure that they recognize that education is a priority. It's not something that's an extracurricular activity. So I don't believe that there should be student loans at all. We have enough money in this world where if students didn't have to pay for college, they can still pay the professors. They can still run a university based off of tickets alone, I would say.
Tickets to the U of M game and the Michigan State game should be able to take care of a lot of that.
And parking tickets.
and parking tickets, oh my. So the young people don't think there ought to be student loans, but there are.
Yes.
How are they managing those loans and then paying those back if they're able to?
I would say what I did was make sure that you first, like, you start as soon as you graduate from college, start setting up that payment plan where you can just pay a small amount, because some people die not paying off their student debt. But as long as you're paying like that $20 a month that they're asking for, you'll be okay. But if you don't do that, they'll start going after your checks, your tax money, all of that. So I would say just get on it as soon as possible.
Okay. How did you get involved in politics?
It's a very interesting story.
I knew it would be.
I actually was in Spain. I had went to study abroad in Spain. And
that's wonderful.
Yes.
You got to tell us a story how you got there, but finish your story, then I'll ask you about that later.
Okay. I am very spiritual, which I'm glad I'm on this show. Let's talk about spirituality. But when I went to Spain, I had a great encounter with God that just showed me that I am a leader, and I can use my leadership through Him. And my first thing was, I can be a minister, which I still want to do.
Okay.
But what does a minister look like in the community? An elected official.
Okay.
So I go to church all the time, so as far as the serving of a church, that was something that I was not foreign to. But being out in the community and being with leaders that are in the community, I felt is most important because it's more tangible, which made me a little bit, I want to say I was younger, so not want to say upset with the church, but just knowing that we can do more in the church, that those two have, even though they want to separate the church and state, it needs to come together, because that's the way that we can really get the energy behind it, and also the work. Because we can have all the faith, but if we're not putting in the work, it's dead.
Okay.
When I got to Spain, something came over my spirit for me to just start looking into running for office. I'm like, I want to run for office, and I'm like, now you need to make it more tangible. How can you run for office? That's when I ran across Representative Joel Jones. He was only 18 years old running for city council.
That's right.
And
for those of you who don't know, he's he was running for city councilman in Inkster, Michigan.
Yes. So that's how I got into politics. When I got back from Spain and graduated from college, I knew that I was going to go and support whatever he was doing. Okay. And so I went and I volunteered on his campaign, knocked over 1,000, 2,000 doors alone, and eventually just kept pulling on this coattail. I'm staying right here. I need to know what's going on. I need to be involved. And he taught me so much about politics and what we can do to continue to help better our communities.
Well, that's a wonderful story. But now, how did you get to Spain?
Well, I am a Spanish minor.
Okay.
So that I had got a study abroad trip to Spain for 2 months.
2 months.
Yes.
Wonderful. Where did you stay when you were in Spain?
A place called Cantabria.
Okay.
So it's Cantabria in English. Yep. So it's like a more of a touristy type town, but they have a university there. So we went to that university.
How wonderful. And you were there for 2 months. Was this when you were a senior in college or a
Yep.
junior?
Yep,
When you
I
were a
was a
senior in
senior,
college.
yep.
Who paid for it?
Scholarships, thank God.
Okay.
Scholarships and my Facebook family.
Oh, is
Yep.
that right?
So I had some of my Facebook family helped me get my ticket as far as getting there, and especially my mom. And then I got a scholarship from my school,
Oh, what school did you attend?
Western Michigan
Okay.
University. Yep.
Wonderful. That's a great story. That's a great one. You were in Spain, and you something came over you that said, "I need to do this," and it was just something that you felt was a spirit-led. Something
Yes.
that said, "I need to do this." Was Jewel with you in Spain?
No,
No, he was
he
not.
didn't even know I existed.
Oh, you had not met him yet.
No,
Oh, for
it was
heaven's
all on
sakes.
social media.
Oh my goodness, that is wonderful. Were any other young people with you in Spain? How many were there?
Yep. So I think it was about 23 of us that went. So.
Were they all from Western?
Yep.
And that you all stayed for 2 months?
Yep.
That is great. My grandson was in Spain 2 years ago on a study abroad mission for 10 days. And what's so incredible, he was 11 years old when he went.
Wow.
And that I thought it was absolutely incredible that his school has that kind of
Yes,
program
it is.
where they start them early, looking at other worlds and other cultures and understanding what goes on in places other than where they live now. And this past year, he went to South. I'm sorry, everybody. My phone is ringing. Isn't that terrible? I'm going to turn it off. So don't just watch me turn it down, okay, everybody? For heaven's sakes, who told you to ring, phone? Okay, so now let's just make sure that doesn't happen anymore. How about that? There. Now, back to the grandson. The grandson went to South Africa this past year and for 10 days, no, 11 days this time. And they stayed in South Africa, had a chance to go out into the bush and stay with tribes and the safaris and see real animals. And I just think that is so wonderful that we start them early, having those kinds of experiences. So study abroad is just so incredible. And this year, he's going to Costa Rica.
Awesome.
And so
Wow.
for them to be able to have those kinds of programs for young people at that age, how old he is, 13 now.
Wow.
I think it's just absolutely incredible. And you were able to stay for two months. That's just, you see a whole nother world. And you really get a chance to see what the culture is and what the people are like for that in that period of time.
Yes.
And you come back, I'm sure, a changed person.
Yes, definitely.
That
the energy is amazing.
That is absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. Okay, so you go to Spain and you decide that I'm going to get involved in politics. One day I'm going to be an elected official. What happens when you come back from Spain?
I came back from Spain, and it was another election cycle coming up. So this was this was 2018. So I graduated in 2017, but the
Okay.
next election cycle was 2018. So over that course of that time, I was just kind of keeping up what was going on through social media with everyone that I knew was running or things like that. And so for Representative Jones's campaign launch, I went to the campaign launch and introduced myself to him. And he introduced me to his former chief of staff, Javion Johnson. And after that, I never let Javion out of my sight. I'm like, what are you guys doing? What's going on? And so, yeah.
That is great. So you, and I know you have a way of getting things done because you took care of us ladies as we were working on that program. You got things done.
appreciate it.
You worked hours and hours and hours to help us make sure it went well, and we appreciate that so much. But now Jewel gets elected. First, he got elected to city council.
Yep. So this was his state seat.
But then there was a seat available in the state legislature. And then, so he got elected to the state legislative seat. So he is now a state representative. And how old is you? 23, maybe 24?
24, yeah.
He's 24. It's really incredible to have young people in that space because they bring a whole different perspective to how people think and how we ought to be proceeding on some issues. And I'm sure that a lot of what they think is different than what some of the more seasoned representatives were thinking. So he brings a whole other view to what goes on in the State House. That is so wonderful to have that kind of young man in the State House who has already been a city councilman at 8. What was he, 8? He was 18 when he was elected city council, wasn't he? And to have him go from that to being a state representative is just absolutely incredible. I just think so much of him because he is always out there working in his community and doing things for his community. And it's a different flavor of people that surround him.
Right.
Young people are around him, and so he's bringing that energy to the State House. But he's also bringing that thought process to the State House. Talk a little bit about some of the programs you've worked with him on.
We've done a lot. I would say, what is one that can stick out? One thing that I did like was going to the schools. So like going to the elementary schools during March's Reading Month. I would say that probably was one of the most impactful times for me, just to see how he was able to interact with children and the way that they were able to respond to what he says. A lot of times I would say that older folk, not to say it like that, but older folk can be disconnected from children, and as far as trying to get through to them, which is very hard. It's even hard for our age, but to see him be able to do so, and for people to be like, you know, I look up to you, I would love to be where you are, I can see myself, and he's a young black man, so young black children are excited about life because of someone like him, or he comes with his police officer uniform on, because he's also a police officer. And they're like, you know,
wow, I didn't realize he was also a police officer.
Yep, he's a police officer. It's like the way that he's able to impact the youth is one of the most phenomenal things to see.
Wow. That's really quite incredible. I'm going to have him on the show.
Definitely.
I'll have to do that. But
yes.
I didn't realize he was a police officer.
Yep, and also in the Army, so the National
really?
Guard.
National Guard. Isn't that incredible?
It
is. And it's such a great example for a young black man to show for young children in schools, so that they aren't always afraid of someone with a uniform on.
Right.
And that they feel that that person in the uniform can really be my friend and can understand what I'm going through. It isn't always that that person is somebody who's coming after me.
Right.
And that is so important for our young people to recognize. We're going to take a break right now. We're going to listen to a little song, and then we're going to come back and talk more about what you do and what you've done and what your future plans are going to be. I'm just so excited about those. Okay. So as soon as we finish with this song, we're going to come back and hear some more from our special guest, Miss Diajah Ruffin, who happens to also be the treasurer for the 13th Congressional District.
Yes.
We're back. Thank you so much for staying with us here on Community Bell Show, WVTC Radio Detroit. We are glad to have you with us, and we are so pleased to have our special guest, Diajah Ruffin. Thank you again for joining us. It's just a pleasure to have a young lady who's got so much pizzazz with us today.
I appreciate it.
So much. Now, we were talking about some of the programs and projects you've worked on. Talk about what you did with Senator Sylvia Santana.
Oh, yes. Okay. Well, I can remember. That's like, fresh on my brain.
Yes, so, I thought so.
I've done a lot with Senator Santana. I would say the most amazing project we did was the Black Women in Michigan Politics Luncheon. That was just one of the most, I cried.
Yeah.
Behind closed doors, but I cried. I'm like, wow, that was awesome to just be in a space with great energy and be able to create that type of energy just through a vision that Senator Santana and you all had. So
yeah, it was really a very, very special day just to know that many women from across the state shared the vision.
Yes.
And wanted to be a part of the vision. And so those of you who attended that luncheon, we thank you for that.
Yes.
We are planning a follow-up to the luncheon, and so I look forward to more information on that as we move along. But it was a great great luncheon. We had women elected officials from all over the state, women who didn't even know each other before they got there, became friends. There were business people there. There were all sorts of people there that we were just so pleased to have with us. So it was really a great time. So now, what other projects did you work on with Sylvia?
Let's see. We had a lot of different community events as far as things that we helped volunteer on. So we were with the precinct, I don't want to mess up the precinct.
Precinct delegates?
No, the police precinct.
Oh, the police precinct.
I want to say it's
there's the 8th?
The 8th
The 8th precinct,
Yeah,
I know
it was
it well. The 8th
yes.
precinct, yeah.
So we helped serve lunches to the police officers there. We've done a lot of senior lunches. And we also took a tour for the healthcare facilities, the ones that are inside of, just in the community and also inside of the different schools. So that was nice to do and learn more about.
One of the things that I know you've been working on and is very dear to Senator Santana's heart, and we're going to have her on in the next few weeks to talk about it, and that is the community corrections piece of it and the corrections piece, and working with young people who have been incarcerated and trying to make sure that we aren't penalizing them for being young. And do you know about that project she worked on?
Yes, so she was a part of the task force that they had created where they had like several meetings as far as hearing out from different people in the community, former people that have been incarcerated, people that are worried about their children that are incarcerated. She also did a town hall with Representative Yancey and a couple of judges, and just had the community come out and talk about their concerns, and they just took a lot of great notes, a lot of information. That was probably the last thing I think I did with Senator Santana. So I don't know what the process is now, but she has a lot of great information as far as what the community wants, and I'm pretty sure she'll move forward with that.
I am so sure she will. She's very diligent when she gets her teeth into something. She doesn't let go until it's done, and that's important for our representatives to do, to complete the process, complete the projects they're working on that make it better for all of our community. We've got, Regina Granberry-Smith watching. Hi, Regina. Glad you're watching today. And there's Carlotta.
Yes, Ms.
House.
Yes.
How about that? That's someone you know.
Yes, that's my best friend's mother.
Oh, wow. Isn't that wonderful?
Yes.
Well, thank you for watching. We hope you will continue to watch us every week, folks who are looking in. Let me go back to our young people again, because there's something coming up this year that is going to be so important for not only young people, but everybody in this community. That is the census.
Yes.
Are you talking about the census with the young people on those college campuses when you're going around trying to get them engaged?
Yes, so that's one thing that we are definitely focusing on coming into 2020. I've been to a couple of events around the census, not with my job, but just getting more familiar, especially with Wayne County Executive Warren C. Evans. So he's doing a lot with the census. So definitely that's what I'm going to be focusing on going into 2020, just letting them know that it's important that they fill out the census. And as far as a lot of people have a lot of pushback when it comes to the census because if they are being counted, what are they being counted as? Because there are only so many categories, and I'm right with them. It's a lot of pushback that I have towards the census as well. But as long as we have the information, we can move forward with our process of what we use with the information, and let other people, whatever they want to do with the information, not affect what we have to do to continue to move forward.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I know a lot of people are skeptical about what happens to that information. Are they going to use it to get me on my parking tickets? Are they going to use it to get me on my back alimony and child support? No, none of that. You need to know that the census information is private. By law, they cannot use it for anything other than count. The count is so critical. And as we talk about this being an election year, it's perfect time for census, because if we don't get our numbers, we're going to lose a congressional seat in Michigan. That would be horrible for us. We're talking about the Electoral College. What that really means, if we lose that congressional seat, everybody, is that we will have one less congressional college vote. So when it comes to for the election and the electoral votes are counted, instead of having, I think we have what, I can't remember, 11, was it 13?
What was I don't know about that.
We will have one left, and I'm going to have to check on that to know the exact number, but we'll have one less because we will lose a congressional seat. And guess where we're going to lose that seat if we lose it? It's going to be in the metropolitan Detroit, southeast Michigan area, where most of us live. So that makes it doubly important that we get people out and make sure they are counted in the census. And again, you know, I talk about this every Monday. So for those of you who watch and listen every Monday, you knew it was coming. So here it is. The census determines how much money we get for education.
Right.
Because if we aren't counting the babies, they decide, well, you don't have that many children in your community, so you don't need as much money. It determines how much money we get for health care. So if we aren't counting everyone, babies, seniors, folk in the middle, we're not going to get as much money for health care.
Right.
Everybody talks about the roads. Funding for the roads doesn't come just from the states.
Right.
It comes from the federal government.
Yes.
So if we don't have as many people counted, we won't get as much money for these wonderful roads we have in Michigan. And now we've had a mild winter, but I don't want us to get complacent. This is Michigan. You know something's coming. So just sit back and you know it's coming. So those roads that we talk about all the time, we get money based on the number of people we have. That's where we get monies to help with those roads. And so we're talking about education. We're talking about health care. We're talking about child care. We're talking about Head Start.
Yes.
We're talking about Medicaid, Medicare, all those things that make a community function and make people safe and secure and healthy. That's what comes from the census.
Yes.
That's what happens when we fill out those forms. We are able to get more of it's our money, everybody. It's our money. But if we don't fill those forms out, we don't get as much of it back as everybody else does. And so those census forms, please fill them out. Now, so that you know, Michigan has 16 electoral votes. Mm-hmm. If we lose one, we only get 15.
Right.
So when it comes to the presidential election, we have one less vote in the Electoral College.
Wow.
If we don't fill out these census forms and if we lose people. It is so important that everybody recognize that we need to get everybody counted. So if you've got a newborn baby, count the baby where the baby lives most of the time. So if the baby lives with you most of the time, count the baby. If the baby lives with grandma most of the time, count the baby at grandma's house. As long as the baby is counted. That's what we want. We want to make sure the baby is counted. Something I tell everybody all the time, and we talked about corrections and incarceration a few moments ago. Please know that if we don't count everybody, and even those people who are coming back from being incarcerated, they need to be counted.
Yes.
Because those people who are incarcerated are counted where they are in, let me stop. Those people who are in jail. Let me stop talking about incarcerated.
Right.
Those people who are in jail are counted where they're in jail.
Right.
So if you got somebody in jail in Ionia or Milan or at Jackson, any of those places, Jackson gets the money. Mm-hmm. Milan gets the money. Ionia gets the money.
And they're getting that money.
And that's why these little towns want to make sure those prisons stay there and have as many people in them as possible because they get the money. And how much money do they get? $1,800 per person for 10 years. Not just for 1 year, $1,800 for 10 years. So when Johnny gets out of prison, and he was in prison in 2020, and they counted him in Jackson, he gets out of prison in 2021, oh well, that money stays in Jackson for the next 10 years. The money doesn't follow him. It stays in Jackson for 10 years. So be sure that everybody that you know is counted. Don't make them believe that somebody's going to do something toward them that's not going to be right,
Right.
are they going to do something any worse than they're already doing?
That's so true. That's so true.
I mean, you know how politics works. You know how the numbers works. And make sure these people are counted. Make sure that we get the benefit of the monies that we send to the federal government. And they determine how we get that based on the census. So I'm going to stop beating you guys up about the census right now, but I'll be back next week to do it again. So let's go back to my guest, Diajah. Tell me, you majored in Spanish when you were in college.
Yes.
What made you major in Spanish?
Well, I took it a lot of it in high school.
Okay.
So I would say that's probably the
What
main
high school
reason.
did you go to?
Belleville High School.
Belleville, okay.
Yep.
Now, I've got, my nephew went to Belleville High School. He just
Awesome.
graduated. As a matter of fact, he's finished, this is his second semester in college. He came home for Christmas. He's at Oak, it's at HBCU, Oak University in
Okay.
Huntsville, Alabama.
Okay, I'm not familiar
Okay,
with it.
but he's doing well.
That's
we're really
great.
pleased with him. He's doing really well. His name is Noah Talbot. It's my brother's grandson, and Noah is a fantastic young man. He's an Eagles. He was an Eagle Scout. It was last
Awesome.
year. And so he's doing real well. But he's doing really, really well. But you took Spanish in high school, and then you took it in college.
Yes.
Now you know I'm going to ask you this.
Yeah, and don't ask. I got a lot of work to do.
Okay, I won't ask. But you can understand it.
Yes, I can understand.
Okay.
Yes, I can say it's very broken. Okay,
few
I
things.
have broken Spanish.
Well, I may get you with my grandson because he's taking Spanish in
That's good.
school right now.
Okay.
Keep working at it. Keep working at it. That's okay.
I used to be good, and if you don't use it, you lose it.
You lose it. That's what they say. If you don't use it, you will lose it. Yes. And what else you majored? Was it a double major or was it just Spanish?
My minor was Spanish,
Your
and so
minor
my
was
major
Spanish.
was communication studies.
Oh, perfect. And so, of course, you got into a field where communications is really, really important.
Yes.
Tell me how you got to the new job you're in. What made you get there? Did they recruit you, or did you go looking for them? How did that happen?
It was just a conversation that came up. It wasn't like I was looking for a job where they were quote unquote recruiting me specifically, but I just so happened to fit a great job description for them, and I felt that it was a good move for me as far as being well rounded within what politics looks like instead of being at the state, because I was at the state for only a year, which is crazy, like maybe a year and a half, but it went by so fast and I learned so much so quickly. I think that me taking a step back from it makes me see the bigger picture a little bit more instead of being so engulfed in it.
Okay, wonderful. And what's the organization you work for again?
It's called Next Gen America.
Next Gen America.
Yes.
Is it a national organization or is it local?
It's national.
It is
So
national.
we're in a couple of states, several states.
Okay. And so you started working for them last fall,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
and your job then is to recruit and train, or just recruit and get young people engaged.
Yes. Yep.
All of that.
Yep. I'm the community organizer. So I'm actually hiring 2 people. Yep. So it's a shameless plug. If you guys need a job, we're hiring fellows for $1,000 a month, and you'll be a part of community organizing. It's in Washtenaw County, so Eastern, U of M, and also Washtenaw Community College.
Oh, that's great.
NextGenAmerica.org.
So say it again, nextgenamerica.org
Yep.
is hiring.
Yes.
There are some young people who would love to have that $1,000 a month,
Yes.
but they would also love to get the experience that they'll get.
Yes, it'd be a great experience.
With working with an organization like that. And particularly this year, this would be the year that you would certainly want to work with
Yes.
an organization like that, with the elections coming up and all of the things that go on when we start talking about elections. That would be a wonderful opportunity for someone to learn. So say it again.
It's nextgenamerica.org. So and you can go to job. It doesn't say career, it's just jobs. It's a great job. So it's not
What would they be doing again?
They will be getting people registered to vote. We're going to plan events, get a lot of volunteers involved, talk about the census, talk about any political issues that they're interested in, and just building that community in Washtenaw County.
And what are the requirements for this job?
There's not many requirements. I want to you just have to be 18, I believe. And that might not even be a requirement. I'm sorry if I don't remember that,
okay.
but I want to say that's probably the only requirement. So you don't have to worry about a criminal history, anything like that.
You just have to want to do that job and be good at talking to people.
Yes, you just have to get past me. It's like,
To get past that will not be easy. But if you're interested, young people, in getting involved in organizing and helping people understand the importance of voting and of the census and of getting involved in your communities, nextgen.org?
Yes, nextgenamerica.org.
Nextgenamerica.org. Go into that. You never know. You may turn out to be another Deja.
Yes.
We use lots and lots of Dejas.
Yes,
Dejas
a lot of young people.
and Jules. We've got lots of folks we can use who are of the same high standards and quality that these young people are. We're just excited that we have them, and we need a whole lot more of them. And I'll bet there are a lot of you out there who could do this.
Yes.
You just put your mind to do it. You just decide that you're going to do it. It's important that you decide that you want to do it.
Yes.
Because once you decide you want to do something, typically you can do it.
Yes.
It's all about making that decision that is what you want to do. As we look forward to this next year in terms of organizing, what do you think would be the most challenging part of your organizing?
Consistent volunteers. That's probably the most challenging. Making sure that people are staying engaged, not just from the one conversation that you have, but continuing that engagement is the most challenging.
And obviously there has been some issues with you've had some issues with that. So
Yes.
what kind of issues have you had with that?
Just as far as, because if you're volunteering, you're not getting paid, so you must be passionate about what you're doing. And just having that time to have with volunteers is very limited with the work that we're doing. So me just making sure that I'm putting in that time with volunteers and letting them know, like, this is important, you matter in what you believe, and how does this benefit you most, because politics is everything. So it will always benefit you if you choose it to be beneficial.
Very good. I want to go back to something you said when we first started talking, and that is young people are concerned about student loans. What else might they are they concerned about in addition to student loans?
Graduating from college and not getting a job, and also the housing market in Detroit. There's not a lot of apartments in Detroit. There's not a lot of affordable housing in the city of Detroit where people you can't tell someone that graduates from college that they're going to make a six-figure job and be able to afford a house note with utilities and maintenance to the house. It's really not logical. So I would say that the transition for, I would say, our generation is is more difficult now than what it used to be as far as what the process looks like. And so being able to make that transition a little bit more smoothly and have those options for younger folk, I think will be important moving forward.
Housing. Okay. And see, that's something that I guess I never thought about. I thought about housing, but not necessarily as it relates to young people coming out of college. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that we might want to think about as we talk about keeping our young people here and not having them go off to places them around the world is finding places that are affordable for them.
Yes.
That are nice places, that are safe places, but are affordable based on that first job they're getting. Mm-hmm. But tell me about are they able to work their finances so that they understand financing and they understand that this is my budget and I need to do A, B, C, and D with this budget?
Yeah, well, I would say yes, because college will teach you that. It will humble you. You have to budget in college. So I would say, I've lived in apartments in college, and I'm just living off of my scholarship money, so it's like I will have maybe a few $1,000s at the beginning of the semester where I have to let it
take you all the way through.
All the way through. So it's not like there's any more extra money coming in. And I know people that still have jobs with that, like even people that I've played with, they still have jobs. So I definitely think that we can budget our money properly. It's just it's so escalated once you graduate. It's like who's going to be able to afford this, especially credit. That's another thing. A lot of colleges, this is not like that, but a lot of colleges promote getting credit cards and promote doing these things to put people in debt. And now your credit is messed up.
Because you should have never had that credit card in the first place, but you didn't pay for it.
Right.
And now when you get out, you've got all this debt and your credit's bad, so you can't get anything that.
Yes.
Yeah. So we need to talk about how we find places for young people to have good housing at reasonable rates, and how we keep them from getting into that credit trap.
Yes.
Also, that's real important for us to be able to do that. So as we talk about housing for young people, making sure they understand, don't get all those credit cards they try to give you, and those scholarships that they need to get so that they don't get involved in that student loan catastrophe where when they get out of college they're paying forever for student loans. Okay, everybody, you hear those things? You hear what Diajah said? That's what young people are telling her, and she's with them. She's on 3 university campuses.
Yes.
And they're all probably saying the same thing, in maybe in a different way, but they're all saying, even over there, our wonderful people at U of M, they're saying the same thing.
Yes, they are. Yep.
Well, that's important. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. We'll have to have you come back and talk about how your recruiting is going with your next gen group.
Yes.
And how it's going with your young people who don't think their vote counts.
Yes.
and making sure that we get them registered and make sure that they understand absentee ballots, because that's going to be important for young people on college campuses, is the absentee ballot issue, and that they really do get out to vote. Thank you so much. Any final remarks you'd like to make before we leave?
Well, I would say the miracle has to happen in you in order for it to come through you.
Oh, my.
You cannot impart who you are not.
Oh, listen to us. I love it. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. Again, our special guest has been Diajah Ruffin, who is a member of the 13th Congressional District, the treasurer, but also is a part of the Next Gen organization as she helps young people across the University of Michigan, Eastern Michigan University, and Washington Community College get engaged in the political process. Thank you. We'll have you back. Thank you, everyone, for being with us today on Community Bell, WVTC Radio Detroit. We are so glad that you came to join us today. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to Community Bell with your host, former Wayne County Commissioner, Edna Bell. This broadcast was brought to you by WVTC Radio Detroit. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, our website, www.wvtcradio.com, or download our WVTC app from the Play Store for Android users and the App Store for iPhone users. If you've enjoyed this broadcast, tell a friend to tune in. We'll see you next Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern for the Community Bell Show, right here on WVTC Radio Detroit.
The views and opinions expressed on the previous broadcast are those of the authors and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of WVTC Radio Detroit, its advertisers, or affiliates.
WVTC Radio Detroit. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, our website, www.wvtcradio.com, or download our WVTC app from the Play Store for Android users and the App Store for iPhone users.